This section looks at the ways, besides text, that fairy tales convey wonder and are part of the fantastic. And one of the biggest is, of course, illustrations, because as fairy tales were produced for children, they were illustrated. So, these illustrations, which used to be perhaps only available with limited edition copies that were held in special collections in libraries, are now available online. And exploring all of these different images, looking at them side by side, is a great way to think about how just the image can shift the meaning of the tale for the viewer. And, by the way, that's something that you can think about exploring in your final projects. Are there images? Are there visuals that go along with the text you're looking at? How are they part of the message? Do they add to it? Detract from it? Send a sort of subversive message alongside? All fun avenues to explore. So, here is one from the New York Public Library that's kept in their collections. It's a final image from the Grimms, where we see the wolf has died, Huntsman's there, and Little Red Cap and her granny are reunited. But the main ones we're looking at are the sort of golden age fairy tale illustrators, and they've been identified as Arthur Rackham. They're very famous. Margaret Evans Price, Gustave Doré, Warwick Goebel, and Walter Crane. And to these 19th, early 20th century illustrators, we are adding images by Daniel Ignace. These were part of a watercolor series that he then turned into a fairy tale book. It's very whimsical, and you can clearly see his work as an artist being foreground and the tale kind of being wrapped around this. And the things that these images do are unique. They're adding a message here that we don't see in the literary tale itself. Just like having the mother in fur and the girl with feathers and this luxurious cape. Having the wolf here still wearing an early modern or late medieval, depending on what place you're in, collar all around on top of this outfit. It's anachronistic. This here we see is a 19th century sewing machine, but this is from the 15 and 1600s. And all of these things are compressed together. What is that saying about the fairy tale? Is it referencing its long history from Perrault in court aristocratic France through to the present? Is it making a commentary about the European society from which we have inherited most of these tales? What's going on with these images? So here in activity 4, you are going to respond to that. You are going to, in groups, and the groups 1 through 5 have on your Canvas discussion board already been given the artists that you're looking at. So you're going to sign up, self-sign up for one of those groups. You're going to answer these questions. And at the end, I want you to think about this turn that we see in the 20th century with Red Riding Hood, which is sexualization of it that perhaps resonates with Perrault's early versions, but in a much more explicit way for an English audience. And by the way, none of this is an endorsement of any of these artists, any of their work, none of that. This is a review of, a reflection on some of the most critically acclaimed, most published, most publicized versions of Red Riding Hood. So we're going to end with Tex Avery's cartoon Red Hot Riding Hood, which premiered in 1943 and was considered appropriate for kids. So, wonder if you would say that still today. It was part of this sort of shifting sexualized message that's going back to perhaps the implicit message of French court culture, but taking it to the next level. Here's an article about that. You can just skim through that if you want some context on this And then here is the YouTube, also available on the article, which is like this. It describes the history and the reactions to this film in the American public in 1943, which is, remember, in the middle of World War II. In your groups, you're going to respond you're going to respond yourself and then respond to 2 people. Look forward to seeing what you post.